Vice President McDonough.
Here.
Secretary Summers here. Treasurer Whitney. Here. Trustee Schultz.
Here.
Trustee Etchison.
Here.
Trustee Alter. Here.
Thank you. Any changes to the board agenda? I have none. No? Okay. We're into scheduled public comment for agenda items only. Kelly, do you have?
I have a list of parents. Do you have that?
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. Is that better?
Yes.
Much.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. All right. We will go ahead and start with Marissa Prince.
Hi, so there's an agenda item related to when the district will be informing parents of threats. And it sort of defines that the district has to decide if a threat is like real and if the person making the threat has access to weapons. And I guess I'm hoping when we get to that segment, we can be given some examples, because I just tend, I have 3 kids at 3 different schools, and I tend to want to know about any threat to their safety, given everything that's happened, so that I can make a decision about sending them to school or not. And I like to know that as much as I can, as soon as I can, because I take any threat to their safety really seriously, and I think most parents agree. So, in terms of access to weapons, I get this little newspaper called the Citizen newspaper in Brandon Township, Oxford School District. And there was just a report just this month of a woman who went fishing and found a loaded gun, like just laying on the ground. So, the weapons are everywhere, and there's no shortage of irresponsible people out there, as we've learned. So we really can't trust people, basically. I don't trust most people anymore when it comes to this. So that's my comment. And then additionally, I just want to say that I value the board when you have open dialogue and communication before you vote on something. So I look forward to that tonight. And I see that we have parents of some of the victims from November 30th here. And I just want to say that I'm here in support of them and whatever information they need. And I'll always support them, and I care about them deeply. I think we all do, and they deserve the answers that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Cal Myers.
In January, the Department of Justice released its critical incident review of the tragic school shooting at Robb Elementary School that occurred in May 2022. That's 20 months from the time of the shooting to the time that the report was issued. We're at 33 months, almost 3 years, we have nothing. The Uvalde report was led by the COPS office and including leading subject matter experts with vast experience, and they established the following areas of focus and provided a comprehensive assessment of the law enforcement and emergency medical response, communications and trauma services in the wake of the tragedy, minute-by-minute timeline before, during, and after, the multiple failures that contributed to those failures, including the breakdowns in leadership, decision-making, tactics, policy, training, failing to identify the incident for the threat that it was, failing to respond to the threat in the appropriate way, communications challenges and failures, the inaccurate narrative that was initially delivered, the trauma and support services that were provided and not provided to the victims, survivors, and family members, state and national standards, generally accepted standards for identification and response to threats, and the expectations of the community. The victims and survivors of the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School deserve better, said Attorney General Garland. He said, the victims deserve answers, and in providing those answers, we endeavor to honor the victims and the survivors of this tragedy, as well as offer recommendations to improve future responses in other communities. Didn't and don't the victims of the Oxford shooting deserve better? Shouldn't we honor them in the same level by having the same type of investigation by the same authorities? He said the law enforcement response at Robb Elementary and the response in the hours and days after was a failure. As a consequence of failed leadership, training, and policies, 33 students and 3 teachers, many of whom had been shot, were trapped for over an hour. Does this resonate with what happened here? Does this sound familiar? The preparation and response by officials in the hours and days before and after the shooting in Oxford High School was a failure. As a consequence of that failed leadership, training, and policies, 4 students and teachers were shot and killed, others were shot, and they were trapped. And 4 of those students lay bleeding on the floor, some begging for help as they bled to death, wondering why no one was helping them. Think about that. Think about being the parent of that child. Garland said, we hope to honor these victims and survivors by working together to try and prevent anything like this from happening again, here or anywhere. They were promised a report, and it would be detailed, independent, and authoritative. The report came out too late for Oxford, but consider this. What if Oxford had allowed an investigation? What if our failures were used as a warning to other districts to be prepared? What if those in Uvalde learned from what happened in Oxford and what happened here, and were better prepared? Maybe it could have prevented all of those 21 lives from being lost. Maybe they would be alive today if you had allowed an investigation that illustrated the failures here so that they would not be repeated. Have you thought of that? Have you considered that? I just have one more page. If not, I can wait till the next section of comments to read it. Okay, this is it, I promise. Like Uvalde, grieving Oxford parents in this community were promised an investigation. But instead, we continue to be ridiculed, stonewalled, and behind a wall of silence. You charge outrageous fees for document requests. You withhold information and documents which belong to us. You told us false information. You knew it. You didn't correct it. And you allowed that information to go uncorrected. You refused over and over again to allow a real investigation. Parents of murdered children are forced to live with the fact that the people responsible for killing their beautiful children remained employed, got raises, and took jobs where they benefited from the tragedy they created through their negligence and because of their failures. That's how we feel. Instead of an investigation, the people responsible for investigating gave proper agreements to the people we feel are responsible, with no notification or disclosure to the community, and without a full investigation. All while proclaiming there will be a full investigation, that people will be held accountable. Karen McDonald, Oxford Township Board of Trustees, Oxford Village Council, Oxford School Board, you failed the community. You have not honored these children. Each and every one of you had an opportunity to do the right thing, the ethical thing, the required thing, the thing that would save lives, the thing that would bring some closure to these grieving parents, to do the thing that would keep our kids safer and prevent it from happening again. Well done. You failed, but it's not too late. You have an opportunity to make things right, to save lives, to show leadership. An investigation must be done exactly as it was done for Uvalde, in the way it was done for Uvalde. No more false promises of independent investigations that are done by paid entities selected by insurance companies or by agencies that were involved in this tragedy. Director Hugh T. Clement from the Office of Cops stated, investigations and reports such as the one I am seeking are critical to the community. As agencies consistently strive to do better and be more fully prepared, detailed observations and recommendations like these within these reports are invaluable to agencies planning for the future. Please commence an investigation. Thank you.
Danielle Kozak.
Good evening. I'm not Miss Danielle, but she's with her father right now, family emergency in the hospital, and she requested that I be allowed to speak on her behalf, or someone read her statement.
I don't know what the policy is, so I'm not sure.
I identify as Danielle. Thank you.
Just go.
And it is America. I can identify as her, correct?
You know, my personal opinion is with family emergency, and if she's sent to her to read it, I'm okay with it. But if we want to, what are the other opinions?
Danielle's not here to confirm that with any of us, and she's actually here on her behalf, so.
I
don't know.
don't think there's a problem with you doing it at the end for unscheduled and at that particular time.
At the end of unscheduled?
Yeah.
During
At-
unscheduled hours.
During the unscheduled, so fill out a form for that, make sure it gets turned in, and during the unscheduled, you can read it as if Danielle's words are flowing through you, and that's perfectly fine.
I will channel Danielle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we didn't receive.
I didn't.
No.
Okay. All right. Then we will move on to Kara Erskine.
Hello, good evening. Since we have a few new board members, let me introduce myself. My name is Kara Erskine. I'm a U.S. veteran, a social worker, and a mother to an Oxford High School grad, class of 2024. It has been 101 days since the Oxford shooting on November 30th, 2021, a day that forever altered the lives in countless families that shook our community to the core. The pain and loss endured by the families who lost their children, Justin, Tate, Madison, and Hannah, are unimaginable, and their grief continues to echo through our community. To truly begin to heal, these families and our community need answers. We must understand what went wrong, where the system failed, what could have been done to prevent this tragedy. Without a thorough investigation, the wounds left by this horrific event will remain open, festering with unanswered questions and lingering doubts. This is not just about Oxford. It's about every community across our state and nation. We owe it to those who have lost so much to ensure that this kind of tragedy will never happen again. We owe it to other communities to learn from this, to take action, and to create a safer environment for our children. That is why I'm before you today to urge this board to champion a full investigation into the Oxford school shooting with subpoena power. We need to get to the bottom of what happened, not just for the families who lost their children, but for the safety and well-being for every child in every school. And you have that power. Justin demands it, healing demands it, and the future of our communities depend on it. Let us act now with courage and conviction to seek the truth and to bring about justice and change that is so desperately needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Renee Upham.
Good evening. For those on the board who don't know me, my name is Renee Upham. In November 2021, I was a teacher in Oxford the year of the shooting. My son Keegan was a student at Oxford High School. I was a part of the initial poorly planned initiative by this district to equate Oxford Strong with moving on, not talking about it, and denials. I have a few things I wanted you to know. First, I want you to know, this past week, we moved my son Keegan to college. He put up a ribbon with Tate's name on it above his desk. He brought his Justin shirt. He worries about Raina and talks about checking in on her. And he continues to do acts of kindness in Madison's name. He is one of many, many former Wildcats who remember their friends daily. He is also one of the many Wildcats who know that this district, almost 3 years out, has refused to do the right thing. Many of us, students included, wonder why you didn't do the right thing from the first day. Why did you choose to hide and prolong this misery? This is a question some of you here need to ask yourselves. It is not too late to show the integrity, clarity, compassion, and leadership that this tragedy has always demanded, but that has been missing. I ask each of you to unequivocally support the passing of a resolution that asks for a state investigation with subpoena power that overrides all county proffer agreements into the Oxford High School shooting and the response thereafter. It's not too late to do the right thing. My son is expecting a call from me after this meeting to let him know how the vote went. I will share the outcome with him, and he will share this outcome with the Wildcats at Michigan State University. Please do not let your former Wildcats down. Do not let these families behind me who have suffered from your lack of empathy and leadership down. Do the right thing by students and families who really deserve so much more than they have been given by this district.
Thank you, Renee. Olivia.
Good evening. I know there are some new faces on the board, so my name is Olivia Upham, and I was an Oxford Wildcat from my first day of preschool through my graduation at OHS in 2017. I received the unexpected opportunity and honor in the fall of 2021-22 school year to teach 6th grade at Oxford Middle School. My best friend, who also happens to be my youngest brother, Keegan, survived the shooting that same school year, though his friends did not. This is probably the last time you will see me at one of these meetings. I started coming to these meetings almost 3 years ago in my personal need and quest for empathy, transparency, and accountability. I look to you to help me make sense of why I was put in the position of locking down with my classroom full of 11-year-olds, where I wasn't sure that I would ever see my brother again. However, I'm moving across the country in 3 days. A move that was supposed to happen 3 years ago, but I didn't feel it was morally conscionable to leave when my students, my family, and my hometown were suffering. So here we are, all of us again in the 11th hour. Let's talk about legacy. There will be a day, perhaps soon, or perhaps in decades, when the insurance companies, lawyers, lawsuits, consultants, and journalists fall away, and what will be left on this hallowed ground will be each one of your legacies individually. I want you to imagine this day. I want you to feel it. I want it to weigh on your heart. I want it to sit on your mind. And I want you to ask yourself, each of you right now, if you are okay with a legacy that goes directly against the deepest and most vital wishes of the families who have lost the most, of the families who cannot walk away from November 30th in a way that the rest of us, the rest of you can. It is time to meet this moment after nearly 3 years. It is not too late to make your legacy one of justice, righteousness, and honorability, of basic human decency. I ask each of you to unequivocally support the passing of a resolution that asks for a state investigation of subpoena power that overrides all county proffer agreements into the Oxford High School shooting and the response thereafter. There is not a dollar figure, an initiative, or a reputation that is more paramount than looking at the families who lost their worlds on November 30th and choosing to vote in a way that lessens their questions and their suffering. There is a unique and evil heartbreak that I feel after every school shooting since Oxford's. You alone hold the power to uncover the lessons to be learned, to save lives, and to derail the train that is coming to so many American communities in the future. People can learn from what happened here, but only if you let them. It is utterly unconscionable not to investigate fully what happened here. This is it. We've met on many, many Tuesdays since the tragedy, and the moment is now. Please do not turn your back on it. I am proud of my home, and I love my home, but this is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. That concludes scheduled public comment. Moving on to the consent agenda. You all have in your packets minutes from last meeting, bills payable, and HR updates. If anybody would like to make a motion. Thanks, Colleen.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support?
I'll support.
Thank you, James. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we have a presentation from Ms. Verbecki on lessons and everything.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Rebecki, and for the past 11 or 12 years, I've been the chairperson of the Blessings in a Backpack program for Oxford Schools. Our mission has been to feed students in the community, And I'm here to announce a change, but it won't change our mission. Our mission will remain the same. Earlier this year, we were contacted by the corporate group out of state for Blessings in a Backpack, and they wanted us to make some changes that our local organization didn't believe was in the best interest of keeping money here in the community. So we decided to get together with 18 other communities throughout Southeast Michigan, and we created a new group called Fueling Kids Futures One Meal at a Time. We're going to use that program to replace the Blessings in a Backpack program here. It should be seamless. There will be very few changes for the students that are on the program. We'll still package APs. We'll still have the awesome volunteers that come to help us every week. We still have the teachers, Jen Rube, Kristen Glass, Carrie Gordon at the schools who will pass out the food for us and distribute it. And we will still have our financial sponsor, Community Foundation of Greater Rochester. So all those things will remain the same. The one thing that will be different is the white bags the food used to go home in will now be a brown bag from Kroger. So Kroger has a mission to also feed students and children in the community. So it makes sense that we would join forces in a partnership with them to move forward to feed the students. So I was just excited to announce that. I just wanted to, since we're in a partnership agreement with the community and Oxford schools, I wanted to make sure you were all aware. And if there's any questions or if anybody wants to volunteer, get involved, make donations. Obviously, it's more expensive all the time with all the expenses going up on things. Last year, we fed about 170 students per week. I expect that will go up. We have some people in the community like Stephanie McFadden that does a scrapbooking fundraiser every year. She's raised over $15,000 for us over the course of 10 years. So those kind of things partnerships are very helpful to the organization. So again, it's Fueling Kids Futures. It doesn't seem to roll off the tongue like Blessings did, but it'll catch. So Fueling Kids Futures, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Cheryl. Real quick before you go, why don't you let everybody know who would love to donate or volunteer where they can find you?
For now, we don't have a Facebook page or any of those things up, so I would just give my number. They're free to contact me at my cell, 248-909-5689.
One more time.
248-909-5689.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks again. All right. Moving along to the superintendent's report.
All right, good evening, everyone. We had a very exciting couple weeks leading up to our school's opening. We had lots of open houses, pop-in for popsicles, and I was absolutely astonished at how well attended those events were. Just the joy of the parents. I'm not assuming that they were joyous about giving their kids back to the schools, but that could have something to do with it. I don't know, but the kids were just thrilled to go find their classrooms. It was really fun to see the joy in the kids. And we opened up last week with our staff, and I'd like to thank our staff, including our food services, our custodial staff, our transportation, everybody that worked really hard to make sure that we got schools up and running effectively and efficiently. However, I do know that getting school up and running can be have hiccups a little bit. So we did have a few hiccups that I just want to address before I share a presentation with you. The first challenge was, of course, the buses. So at the beginning of the school year, we route over 4,000 students, although only about 2,000 end up riding the buses. So that's a process in and of itself to determine who is riding, who isn't riding, who's showing up. And so the bus drivers are driving all of that area to pick up all 4,000 kids. So as time goes on and we are verifying who is actually riding the bus, that gets more efficient. So I do apologize if buses were running late or if they were early. One thing that I would say is if your bus is later than 5-10 minutes, please call the transportation number. It is on the website. However, I'll also share it with you here, which is 248-969-1888. So please don't hesitate to reach out to that number. Again, that is on our website as well. The other challenge was brought to my attention. Our 7th graders in particular turned in their Chromebooks at the end of the school year last year. Our intent was to go a different direction with Chromebooks and replace those with iPads. Google was transitioning away from the G5 and they were no longer going to support it. But then at the last minute, they were like, hey, we are going to support it for 2 more years. So these Chromebooks were still functioning, they would still be in service, and would save us about $700,000. So we went ahead and refurbished them. However, our parents were under the impression that they were getting the Chromebook that they turned in, and some of them took amazing care of the Chromebooks, and the Chromebooks they got back were not as amazing. So I did email Mr. Bigelow at the middle school. Any parents that received, any students that received a Chromebook in 7th grade that was not up to par with what they submitted, Mr. Bigelow is going to reach out to all of our 7th grade families, and you can submit a Google form and we will replace that Chromebook. So my apologies that there was miscommunication. We're working through some of those technology glitches. The final piece that was brought to my attention is that in elementary school, in our class libraries, we got a grant to add a tremendous number of books that students could elect to read from, science, social studies across the board. It appears as if our social studies bundle that the grant provided was not as broad as we would have expected, right? We want to have a plethora of perspectives. We are a public institution. We want to make sure we are representative of the public. And so it appeared as if that was very limited. So we're reaching out to the manufacturer to enhance those classroom libraries. So I appreciate everyone bringing those to my attention, and please make sure that you reach out. If you do have a Chromebook, that you reach out on that Google form that Mr. Bigelow is going to send out, that you reach out to the number if you're having any transportation issues, and we should see those libraries updated soon. Now, for the exciting part. So we started school last Thursday. My cabinet team has been going out to all of the schools. I've had a chance to get to all of the schools and be in the classes. I was booed by a 1st grader today because I told them I was from Columbus. I said, wow, that hurt my self-esteem, but that's okay. He meant well. So they were just really fun to go in the classrooms, and we sent out a request to our staff to share pictures, videos, comments from students. And what we've done is we've put together a compilation, school by school. It's about 11.5 minutes long, so bear with us. We just wanted to make sure every school had an opportunity to be showcased. So Erin, if you don't mind starting that.
lobby as the kids came in off the buses. They were so excited to see us all standing there. They were all giving everybody high fives, hugs. At one point, my jaw actually started hurting from smiling so much. It was so exciting.
It's kicking these rocks, it's kinda hard to watch this life go by. I'm running into skeptics mess with the confidence in my eyes. I'm seeing all the angles, thoughts get tangled. I start to compromise my life and the purpose. Is it all worth it? Am I gonna turn out fine? Oh, it's turn out fine. Fine, oh, it's turn out fine. But you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. You gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. I know it's hard, to remember sometimes, but you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey, hey, hey. Only rainbow after rain, the sun will always come again, and it's a circle, circling around again. It comes around again. I said.
All right, thank you for your patience. I know that was a little long, but that is our why. That's why we do what we do, is the kids and the joy that they feel in schools. So I'm a little disappointed that Chrissy didn't put the quote from Leonard Elementary School yesterday. It was super hot. They had just come in from the recess and they were sweating and everything. And I went in there to visit them and they looked at me and said, "Why are you wearing pants?" I guess it's a thing, I don't know. So I just want to say thank you to all of the staff that submitted the pictures, the videos. It was, we wanted to put all of them in there, and actually that was just a fraction of them, so you're welcome. But, you know, thank you for submitting that. Thank you for all your effort in getting the year up and running so beautifully, and being able to be in the classes is just a joy. Every single class was a joy to be in, so thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much, Dr. Milligan. Any questions before we move on?
That's great. Fun to see.
Very good to see, thank you. All right. Safety committee update. Allison, thank you.
Good evening. Just wanted to provide an update, as we did have both the district safety committee meeting and a parent safety subcommittee meeting last week. And so part of when we put these together, this graphic is from Safe and Sound Schools, and I think it's a great visual for how we approach school safety planning and development, as it covers all 5 phases of emergency management, but it also really focuses on the preventative measures, looking at mental and behavioral health, the health and wellness, building that culture, climate, and community, and things that we continue to rely on. So I think that's where a lot of that, I know that's where we really stick in with the work and ensure that we have a diverse group who attend these meetings. So the District Safety Committee, 29 members were present, and it represented offices from the Oakland County Emergency Management, Oakland County Sheriff's Office, Oxford Fire Department, Oxford Village Police, the Oxford Township Supervisor, Oxford Village Manager, Oxford Parks and Recreation, various members, district and campus administrators from Oxford Community Schools, and well with the addition of an administrative assistant this year, ensuring that our seated and virtual populations were represented, and then we have parents from our Parent Safety Subcommittee represented as well. And then in that evening, 8 members were present, and with those 8 members that were present, their areas of expertise ranged from public safety, whether it was law enforcement, fire, EMT experience, event security, law, school administration, cybersecurity, and physical security. And the school administrator is not from this district either. And so I think it's important to have that experience of not only being a parent in our district, but also in that role as a campus administrator, to be able to bring that perspective and provide advisory to us. So topics that we covered during both of those meetings was the emergency operation plan. We are due, from what I've been told by the state, by the end of this week, we should have an updated EOP template. And for those of you that have been on this journey with me, we know the old template is from 2014. And so it definitely is time for that. But because we do not have that new template yet and the school year has begun, I provided a rather thick update for them. The majority of it was acknowledging the staffing changes. So those members of the District Safety Committee, who there's 16 of them that were present that have access to a district-wide emergency operation plan, were given their staffing updates within that. And then of course, once the new template is given out by the state, will come to you for approval. We are still under our current approval, as the state of Michigan requires it to be done every other year. So ours is due to be reported to the state April of 2025, which is why I did not bring one to you this summer, as we're still in compliance, and outside of staffing changes, we weren't going to revamp a EOP just to bring you another one. We talked about the Raptor School Safety Suite that I had shared with you, and we went over the graphic to talk about how we are constantly strengthening and refining our practices and really working to streamline. And after going to pretty much every campus, one of the questions I asked the admin assistants was, how's visitor management going? What's going on with that? And it's been overwhelmingly positive, in addition to just some of the other things that between HR and our department being able to streamline a lot of our processes has been very well received by our campuses. And then as far as any of our threat assessment, suicide risk assessment, like any new program, I've gotten some phone calls, where do I go now? But it's been exciting for the group to be able to see things and then work together. We did talk about the night locks as we've talked about before. Excuse me. I apologize. The night lock sensors went through their second rounds of tests today. Liz Canope, who's my administrative assistant, has gone campus by campus already before the school year began with Bob Backlund and our SROs. She did her secondary test today with that. Notifications have been coming. The power went out at the high school, so Shane and I both got the notification that they were offline. And so it is going to be an effective way for us to be able to lock down if we needed to in those public areas, but still be made aware of if anything's done for nefarious purposes. We discussed last year, and I did bring this to you before, that the fire marshal has offered to do walks on each campus. Those are scheduled, they're starting next Thursday. So the fire marshal, the assistant fire marshal, and then someone from the Oxford Fire Department, myself, and administrators will be walking the buildings to learn more about what our requirements are. We also talked about the new camera software that I shared as part of our welcome back, and it's, again, like anything else that's new, we're still getting used to some things, but it's been very well received. It's very nice now. I have it on my phone when I'm in district and can VPN when I'm not. And the streamline of the processes has gone well. We did talk about the community awareness briefing during the parent safety subcommittee, which was the learning opportunity that I had thought might be possible for our community, but after our parent safety subcommittee discussed it, it really did focus on extremism and radicalization, which the parent safety subcommittee felt that aspect of the 2-hour training took up majority of the time, and it wasn't what was going to be most effective for our community. And so we will continue to work with Homeland Security and Oakland schools to see what we can do to bring more awareness to our community in a way that's going to be meaningful. And then the last thing is we spent a lot of time talking about the communications administrative guideline with Christy coming along, as well as Dr. Milligan. We wanted to get clearer and provide a strong procedure and process for what we're doing for our communications as far as safety is involved. And so we spent a lot of time receiving feedback and from both the district safety committee with the 29 members that were present from various areas, as well as the parent safety committee. We took that feedback, revised the AG, and then put it back out to the members. We did have Mike present at the district safety committee and have the opportunity to provide that feedback. And then Christy's going to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like. So I will switch with you.
Hello, I'm Christy Smith, the Communications Director for the district. And so just as a little background, we got new policies this year. We had an old administrative guideline that we wanted to update and bring over into work with the new policies. And so we're really seeking a little bit more feedback tonight. Like Dr. Woolman said, we've asked a lot, but we know this is an important topic. So regarding safety concerns, these are not the only reasons that we'll communicate out, but we will definitely communicate out for these 2 reasons. Number 1 is if there's a direct, specific, incredible threat that is made to students and or staff. And number 2, if a situation emerges or develops that would likely interrupt the school day for a significant number of students within the school community. So there was a lot of wordsmithing that went on. This is where we wound up. And so if you have feedback on this, we'd like to gather that from you. As a result of those conversations, though, there is a few points of clarification that I'd like to make. If a threat is deemed to be non-credible, that doesn't mean that it's not a threat, in that there might not be additional disciplinary action or involvement by law enforcement. So just because it says non-credible doesn't mean that it's something that's dismissed. And another important point that was brought up is that we'll use terms in communications that we send out. And, you know, those terms are defined on our website, but what we're gonna start to do whenever possible is to embed those definitions in the communication, so that when something comes out, you don't have to read it and then go to the website to try to decipher the exact meaning of what it says. We did look through some communications that we sent previously just to make sure that they would all fit into one of these two. And a couple other points is that they will be included in this administrative guideline is depending on the scope of the situation, the notification may be sent district-wide to all parents or to a smaller group such as a specific building, classroom, bus, depending where the incident took place. If the sheriff's office is referenced in the communication, we need to send to them first for approval to review that so they're not blindsided that we sent something out that mentioned them and they had no idea. And our primary method of communication is still going to be school messenger.
Any questions?
Can you speak to how a threat is determined to be credible or not credible?
Yeah, sorry, that was on the slide, I think. So that's here, and this might be more in your wheelhouse.
So we've been working in a partnership between the district safety department, my security specialist, we have one every night, he was over there, he's patrolling both our SROs. We work then with the appropriate school administration to determine their intent and ability to carry out the threat. And then we work with, of course, our appropriate law enforcement agencies. It's not a decision that's just made by district officials. We would work in coordination. And then part of what we have here is the person making the threat possesses the means, method, opportunity, and would be in proximity of the people and the objects. And so that's not to say a non-credible threat is fake. That's not what that means. What that means is it may not, they may not possess the means, method, opportunity, or be in proximity to carry it out, but that doesn't mean we would ignore it. We would still investigate it so that we're able to get a full picture of the idea. And if it was deemed through the investigation to become something credible, we of course would communicate and continue to work with our local law enforcement agencies. But as anything related to safety, threat assessment, suicide risk assessment, bullying, no decision is made in isolation. It is made up of a multidisciplinary team so that it is not one person making that credible versus non-credible threat. And so even when we have calls that come from OK to Say or anonymous bullying reports, they may give the OK to Say, MSP may decide and let us know if they deemed it to be credible or non-credible. We would still work with our local law enforcement agencies as well as our safety and security team here in Oxford to make that determination ourselves through our investigation. It's a long-winded answer, but that's.
Thank you. I had a couple real quick. For the parent committee, the intention is to expand that.
Yes.
And so we will be opening up applications in the near future.
Yes, the goal is to ensure, although they are not representatives of the school itself, because that's what you all serve as the parent representatives, we do want to have representatives to speak for themselves as parents in an advisory capacity. This is not a decision-making body, and as you can see from the members that were present, it is a very safety, security focused group. And that's what a lot of our conversations are centered around. Even the school administrator wrote a dissertation on a safety topic. And so people within there, it's not enough to read something. It is, what are you living, so that you're able to provide your expertise to help us continue to strengthen and refine our practices. And so Dr. Milligan and I have sat and looked at, because we do have some students who move from DA to OES or from one of the elementary schools to the middle school. So we do have 6 buildings that will open up for that. So we will work with Christy. We have the same type of application that we've had, both when Ms. Lamond was here and then when we sent one out last year for those buildings, and we'll send those directly to the parents of those buildings.
Thank you. Speaking of that advisory capacity, on the AG, it says for the criteria number 2, a situation emerges which would likely interrupt for a significant number of students. That seems like a very subjective criteria. What kind of guidance are you going along with that? Are you going to be utilizing the parent safety committee to kind of, soundboard some examples? Would this communication be appropriate in this instance? Where are you making that concrete?
So for our September meeting, that is our topic, is, as we know, there's been a lot of work on our crisis communication, and then we had Christy step into the role, so she's reviewing what had already been in place, and then taking time to revise and edit as needed. But Christy and Dr. Milligan and I will meet with the Parent Safety Committee to do that exact thing. Not necessarily your airplane crash situation or a chemical spill, but looking at, we received an okay to say about this. What would you expect as a parent? And not using anything, of course, that would violate FERPA. There are plenty of ideas that are on like the averted school violence page that we could use that were true cases, just not for us. How would you want us to handle that as a parent? And that's similar to what we've done when we're looking at developing discipline processes, procedures, behavior, is this is what I need. If someone comes to discipline tribunal, what do you need as a principal? And then going from the principal, what do you need when a teacher brings you a behavior concern? So really starting and looking at what do the three of us need? How do we communicate? Which we've already talked about that. So now it's time to then work with our administrators. What do you need communication wise? And then we'll bring it to our parent safety subcommittee next month for their input on that.
Excellent, thank you. Were there any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We will move on to Board of Education matters. First up is the OHS Theater field trip request. Thank you. Yes, okay, great, thank you.
The Google Slides, you say he doesn't have. Here, it should be a link, that's a PDF. No, he's saying he only has some PDFs.
All right, while we're sorting that out, I will introduce myself to those of you who may not have met in person. I'm Krista Price. I teach at the high school, direct theater, and I've been running the theater program for the last 13 years there, so all the plays, musicals, black box shows, improv team, all of that I'm in charge of. And John is here with me today as well. He runs the PAC, so he's here with me to present. While they get that up, I am here to request approval for our fall play retreat. We actually did the exact same trip last year, and it was such a wonderful experience. I'll wait till I get my information up before I get into it too much. John is a tech guy too, so it's nice to have an extra on hand. I think we'll be okay. All right.
Does this have airtime on it? Can I just cast it up to the projector? Does it have USB-C and I can just report to USB-C?
to the regularly scheduled.
I'm looking at it, and it's not. It's unmuted, just gotta wait for it to warm up. Sure it's not muted or?
While we're waiting, if I can ask, do we have somebody here for the DC field trip too? Nobody? So we don't have a presentation to load up on that? Okay. Well, never mind that.
Is it the HDMI source?
It's on this screen, it's not projecting, so.
Just spin it around, you wouldn't get the. Says it saw an HDMI signal, yeah, why is it not? We should have it.
If you need me to go on, I can.
Yeah, we have it, so you
All right. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna use the screen at least so I can kind of talk through what you guys are seeing. So you have the presentation up, correct? Okay, wonderful. So, all right. So like I said, we took this trip last year and we really appreciate the board's support in making sure that we were able to do this. The purpose of our trip, the fall play is a keystone event every year for both our students and our community. But we have, with the more programs that we have in our district, especially all the amazing arts programs that we have, but we all share the same space and the same schedules and the same, it just makes it really difficult. And so we keep getting edged even more, all of our programs. And so this was a way to take some of our time and space out of the building and take our students somewhere else where we can spend an entire weekend really focusing on each other and the show. So that is kind of the purpose of the trip. The next few slides, I put some images up from our fall play last year. So kind of the finished product of what we created so that you can kind of see, I know some of you are new to the board or maybe even new to our program, so you can see what we had as a finished product. And we're really proud of our theater program at Oxford, and we hope that we are a point of pride for the district in what we're able to create with kids. We work with amazing students. If you go to the screen where it says goals, these are the goals of our trip. To participate in team building and cast and character or show related exercises.
We don't have
we don't have that.
You don't have?
We have an entirely different.
I'm happy to.
I did check beforehand to make sure that everything was good to go, but, okay. So I will just talk through it. Thank you for your patience. So one of the goals is to participate in team building and cast and character or show related exercise designed to build a cohesive cast. The second goal is to provide the cast and show with dedicated and intense supplemental rehearsal time, like I said, because of our limited time frames and spaces. And our third goal is to provide a distraction-free, out-of-school and inspiring setting in which students can fully commit to self-growth, team cohesion, and rehearsal and show excellence. Some of the slides after that are some of the activities that we did last year, and as well as some quotations from the students of what it meant for them. I'm sure Kelly can share the links with you that were shared with her. We're going back to elementary and walking the book around. So we had some of our tech crew go along, we had our entire cast go along, and we had 8 volunteers as well last year, just to give you a snapshot of how things happened last year that we would like to model this year after as well. Nature really showed off for us last year because it was a fall retreat, and so the colors were popping. It was really, really gorgeous. All right, so the student, staff, and transportation, approximately 15 cast members. We haven't actually cast the show yet or had auditions yet or anything. We just know that 2 board meetings are required, so we had to get in even before we have our cast together. So approximately 15 cast members. Oh, there we are. We had a lot of pretty pictures, but there we go. So if we can kind of skip forward, back one more. Oh, now we're back in the beginning. There we go. This is where we were. So students, staff, and transportation, about 15 cast members, like I said, as well as the student stage managers. Usually we have 2, so taking them as well. Last year, like I said, we had 8 adults that chaperoned, so we had a really great team working in service of our kids up there, and we have some committed already, and we're still working on if other people want to go. Transportation would be chaperone-driven vehicles, like last year, and then the location, cost, and dates. The place is Northern Pines Lakeside Resort. It's in Irons, Michigan. There's 6 cabins and a lodge. The lodge we use for gathering and rehearsal, so all of our meal times. We also used it as a rehearsal space. We would use the outdoors as rehearsal for some of our rehearsals as well. Cost per student, $100. That partially covers the food and transportation. However, as always, if a student's family struggles with that, we offer scholarships to make sure that everybody is able to, that it's accessible to everybody that is in the cast. Our dates that we're looking at are October 5th through 8th. So we would leave Saturday morning after the Friday night home football game and then return on Tuesday. So that's some quick facts, and I do apologize that tech wasn't cooperating with us while I was scanning back through so that if anybody cares about some of what we were sharing. So thank you for your support in the past. We really appreciate it. It made a big difference for our students, and you can read some of these quotations of students that shared what it did for them last year. So we really want to take the opportunity to do this again. Any questions?
Krista, is this just your second year?
Yes. Yep, last year was our first. Yeah. So we really, like I said, really appreciate your support of last year as we got it on its feet for the first time.
I remember this last year. It was excellent. I know the kids really enjoyed it, so thank you for bringing it back. There is just one thing that I want to make you aware of, and also, any other field trips that are being planned where you use chaperones that are parents driving students in vehicles. Just be aware that we have a new policy this year. It's 3105, and they will need to submit proof of registration.
Yes.
And insurance.
Yes, and we did that last year, correct? Actually, we had submitted last year a different mode of transportation, and we found that there were other things that weren't covered with 15 passenger vans. So we had to kind of switch it, at the last minute. So yeah, we went through that whole process last year as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, well, we will let everyone know they have the next couple of weeks to ask any additional questions if needed, and we will bring this back to our next board meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. We do not have somebody here for the DC, so we'll have to bring that back if they would like to do a presentation. But if anybody has questions preemptively, now that we can, wanted to bring. Next time will be the first. We're not on a deadline with that one, correct? It's November, right?
The cost, did you say?
Yeah, the cost isn't on there, like per student, says student pays, but it doesn't have a cost on there in the form.
I'm also wondering if they didn't come to the meeting, because this is a recurring trip, and although it's a new board, so that it's probably better if they come, but I wonder if that's why, because they've been doing it for so many years.
This is something we discussed with governance, and we'll have to continue to discuss our how we would like it to go from now on, because it is a little, sometimes you come, sometimes you don't. And I can only speak for myself, but I do appreciate the presentations, and I know everybody loves to see them, and parents need the information, and it's just another way to get it out there. So that's something that we haven't set in stone yet, and anybody has any opposition to that, that's probably the direction that the governance committee would suggest we go.
Okay.
So as long as we are good for next meeting, we'll have that. Cost seems to be the only question at this point. And then I have one about the insurance that I sent you, and I So if we could have an answer on that one too, informing the parents. And we will look forward to that presentation next meeting. So moving along to item C, FOIA appeal dated 8/20/24. You should all have information in your packet regarding this FOIA appeal.
I don't think the motion is just that we acknowledge that we had it.
But we are supposed to make a decision. Do you have a motion ready? Well, I mean, I could just make one up.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll pick it up.
To approve or not.
Okay.
And so just to be clear, it isn't a FOIA appeal, so if I move to approve the FOIA appeal, that would be approving no cost. And if I move to deny the FOIA appeal, that would be leaving with cost.
Yeah.
I move to approve the FOIA appeal submitted 8/20/24. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Mike? Okay. Discussion?
Okay, so repeat that. So that is, you move to approve it.
Approve the appeal,
Okay.
meaning that the requester would not have to pay a fee
Okay,
to receive the documents, the insurance documents that were requested.
okay. All right. And you're good setting that precedent?
Not necessarily setting a precedent, I'm certainly not taking a position that we should do this at all times. I think that it is in our discretion to go on a case-by-case basis, that isn't within our power. And in this particular case, I do see enough there to say that there should not be a fee. I fully understand other FOIAs that are AI software generated and ask for hundreds of hours of work, and I absolutely agree that we should be charging for those types of FOIAs and the time and the resources of our district to fulfill those. But in this instance, I do not. I believe it is less than an hour's worth of work. It is an easily identifiable document. This particular person asked for documents like this in the past and were not given the full policy as requested, and they were not charged at that time. So those are my reasons as to why I believe that we should not have a fee for this one.
Okay. So we'll, moving forward, your thinking is that every time we'll approve it or not?
We have to. Every
We have
appeal
to.
that comes
We have to
forward,
approve
we
every
have to
appeal, but.
approve or
Okay.
deny every.
All right.
So I don't know, I don't believe that every single one should be approved like I had mentioned.
Okay.
But an appeal has to come to the board, we have to make a decision. And as much as I do agree that consistency is important and things, and we are charging now this year, it doesn't have to be for everyone, and it certainly doesn't have to be in circumstances where if we as a board feel that the community benefits from the information, that we would waive the fee. So those are my
Yes.
If anybody would like to add to the discussion before we vote on the motion currently on the table.
No, I understand your reasoning behind it, but it's a slippery slope for things as it goes, so that's all I'm saying.
As long as it's understood that each case is dealt by case-by-case basis, we collectively agree on the direction taken based on the amount of work performed. In this particular case, I support approval. The level of work does not constitute a fee in this particular case. ordinance is not set because we're deeming it to be dealt with each by case, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So this time it's an hour of work. What if it's 2 hours? What if it's 5 hours? That's my fear, is that, so if it's 2 hours, yeah, that's good. It doesn't take that long. What if it's 5? Same. So that's, as James said, that's my concern, because we get so many requests. It's not like we just get a request every now and then.
But I'm in agreement with what Mike's saying, it is obviously clearly discussed here. Regardless, all of the appeals come to us first up. And we have the ability to waive the fees or not waive the fees and stuff. We just, as it comes, we'll look at them independently and make a decision as a board on the merits of what it is.
I don't need to talk decisions. I think I agree. I mean, I don't think we're setting a precedent. I do acknowledge that these can take resources from our other, district day-to-day business. But I think, as we discussed, every appeal comes to us anyway. We have to make a decision on that. This was for an hour of work. It's in 15-minute increments. I was kind of in agreement at the beginning that I didn't really understand why we just couldn't pass it off to the requester, honestly. So that's my thoughts as well.
Thank you for sorry for the
No
pressure.
problem.
Okay, we can move forward with a vote if there aren't any other comments, okay? All right, we don't really have a template for this, so James, do you want to? It would just be a majority, right? Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? One?
It's just not precedent. Yep.
Completely fine, as is your right. I appreciate that. All right, motion carries. Next order of business is second reading of policy. And I was not here last week when you all had first reading. I haven't seen any questions come in additionally since then. Ann or James, correct me if I'm wrong at all. Okay. And so if the board doesn't have.
Move to adopt.
Right, I know.
First reading.
Yep, we already had the first, I wasn't here for the first reading. I just wanted to go over one, because we did have some questions during policy committee on these. I just wanted to share, with the board when that happens. For instance, policy 3115C, there was specific language in there discussing that the district will not disclose information to anyone other than the person to whom it applies in that Title IX policy, if you recall. And our question was about parents and surrounding that. It didn't specifically say it included parents. It actually sounded like it did not. And so we did receive from Troon validation that the actual Title IX policy includes parents as, always includes as part of that definition. So I just wanted to update everybody with that was included. And so if there aren't any other questions or comments about those policies, somebody would like to make a motion? It's a fun one. All right, I'll take it.
Mike said,
Oh,
just about ready?
You ready?
Want me to read? Go ahead.
Yes.
So I move to adopt policies 3115, 3115A, 3115B, 3115C, 3115D, 3115E, 3115F, 3115G, 3115H, 3118, 3402, 4101, 4102, 4104, 4105, 4105A, 4105B, 4201, 4206, 4209,
4401, 4402, 4403, 4405, 4408, 4409, 4503, 4507, 4609, 5202, 5204, 5304, 5420, 5711, 5713, and 5715 is presented.
Okay, support. Ann, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And the reason we were late for this meeting, we had another policy meeting right before. And now this set of policies, the only changes are what Troon had put in, capitalizing the P in parents of these policies. Were not on our agenda for today. We'll have those for you next time, so.
These first reading.
This is first reading, and literally nothing changed. We pulled out all of these policies because nothing changed except for the capitalization. Yes.
No, they changed parent guard/guardian to parent, but the
With the
definition
capital.
of parent includes guardian, legal guardian.
Right. So no other changes in any of these policies. At the next one, we'll have more for you. So for now, this is just first reading on these policies. Again, it is myself, James, and Ann on policy committee. In the meantime, if you have any further questions, if not, can I get a motion?
Do I have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so did you cover these in policy committee or this meeting at all? Nothing? Because I noticed, for instance, like 3303, we determine the gifts and.
We need to have a motion before.
We should have a motion.
Okay, that's
Oh,
fine.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like that, sorry.
Okay.
So, I'll make a motion.
Okay, great.
Mike, I'll do it. Move to approve the first reading of policies 2203, 3104, 3107, 3108, 3116, 3303, 3403, 3406, 4204, 4214, 4216, 4217, 4221, 5104, 5201, 5209, 5210, 5302, 5307, 5308, next line, 5401, 5402, 5403, 5404, 5406, 5410, 5411, 5418, 5419, 5507, 5602, 5603, 5702, 5703, 5704, 5705, 5712, and 5805, as presented.
I'll support.
Mike, thank you. Now discussion.
Okay, very good.
Which
So
one
like
did you reference?
3303, gifts and donations, it's highlighted in there, there's a blank for the value that the board would authorize the superintendent to take in, or a value exceeding a number the board would be at its discretion to accept or not.
You're speaking to A3, correct?
Yes.
That is, so this it's 1,000, by the way. This policy is currently our policy.
Okay.
We have this policy in place. It is on our website, 3303. And so when you see that in that form, that's typically what the policy committee gets to make decisions from Troon. In this instance, we already have adopted this policy, and it is on the books, and 1,000 is the amount.
Okay.
We are proposing to change according to Troon's suggestion, just like the parent guardian thing.
Leaving the amount.
Correct. The 1,000 would
So
say.
we would remain the 1,000.
Mhm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
GPS discussion. I guess I'm trying to understand what we're restricting. Honestly, what it sounds like is cell phones, but then at the end it says does not include cell phones. So we're restricting GPS tracking device with audio surveillance capabilities. What is that? Maybe James is looking like he's gonna.
So there's different things. I mean, so for instance, there's IDs that are out there that have Bluetooth GPS tracking inside the schools that can be embedded in there. Some corporations have that when you go there. For the audio stuff, if it was something of the Chromebook that, or maybe not Chromebook doesn't have GPS, but let's say if they get a higher end laptop, has GPS tracking with audio surveillance capabilities built into it, that would be something that would be what that's addressing. Is that we're not doing cell phones? We don't, as a district, we're not managing cell phones for students. And if I'm correct, I think we have staff that have cell phones, but that's not, we don't do that. We don't manage, we don't geotag, or geofencing is the phrase of the cell phones where they go. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess maybe I missed it, but this is specifically school supplied devices?
Yeah. So think of the Chromebooks or laptops that we show out to the students.
No, for sure. I don't know that I made that jump, and maybe I missed it. It just sounds like in general.
But understand that 5200, under the 5200 is student conduct and discipline. So this policy relates to student conduct and discipline, so we don't give them GPS locating devices with audio surveillance in there under for student conduct and discipline. I don't think she is.
I can look into it a little bit more.
Yeah, since it's our first reading.
Yeah, we're not approving, so definitely look through it and bring up your questions. We'll definitely take it and look at it and get your answers.
I remember specifically going through this with Allison and Vicki, and unfortunately she's not here, but she is going to have the very descriptive answer as to this device, because I remember asking the same thing. What exactly does that mean? So we will have that answered by Allison. And did you have additional?
Those are the only two, I guess, on the all. I have to repeat that on the record, but no.
Oh, we haven't voted yet then. I'll get us there. Just give me a minute. Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, fantastic. Moving on to item F, board resolution. We have, and you know what, we're gonna take our time here, so a little slow.
Get your stuff out.
Get all of your paperwork ready in front of you. Or just we have 3 resolutions in front of us. And I am positive that everybody has an opinion and discussion on this. So unless anybody else wants to, I can open it up with a motion. Now, let me just go over a couple of things, I guess, for my own clarity.
Nice and loud, please.
I'm so sorry. Okay. We can put a motion on the table, and during that time, anybody on the board is able to amend if they would like. And according to Robert's rules, the procedure for that would be that we would talk about the amendment first, vote on that, and go back to voting on the original motion. We are a 6-member board tonight, so I will remind you that a 3-3 vote is a fail. In the event of a tie, the motion fails. We may bring it back up for reconsideration tonight if anybody would like to change their vote in that instance. And we may also bring it up at the very next meeting if that also does not resolve it tonight. Hopefully that's not the case. I just wanted to let you all know what I learned to make sure that I was prepared ahead of time. And with that being said, unless anybody else would like to go first, I can put a motion on to start us off. What's that? You want to go ahead? Go right ahead. Move to approve resolution number.
As presented. Which one you want to put forward, yeah.
I move to approve resolution number 1.
I'll second.
James second, thank you.
Now we should read the resolution?
So,
Now we're going to discuss it?
now we're going to move into discussion, and since we are moving into a discussion, I would like to amend this one. So I move to amend this resolution, and I will show you exactly where, so we're all on the same page. And it's on page 1. And it starts with, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting you guys. Now therefore it be resolved. And you can see on your sheet how it is stated.
Yeah.
My amendment that I propose for 2 reasons. One is that there is a typo in this, and 2, that I just think it sounds more cohesive. So I'll read it as many times as you will need, but the very end, before, it had said before, during, after, or, yeah.
And
So,
after. Mine says and after.
oh, the copy that I had today, it said before, someone fixed it
Yeah.
from this afternoon,
Yeah.
okay?
Look at the one I gave.
Okay, okay. Well, including that, this is how I propose that we amend. Now therefore it be resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan legislature to mandate and fund a comprehensive, independent review of the November 30th, 2021 tragedy, including but not limited to the emergency response, relevant events, and agencies before, during, and after the tragedy. So it includes most of the, I had just fixed it up and I didn't really omit any of the words, but if you would like, I can read it a second time.
But your change does admit that it changes the order of how that is read.
Correct.
So it no longer specifies that it's an independent review of the emergency response.
Correct. It's an independent review, including but not limited to the emergency response, relevant events, and agencies. So it puts them all together rather than separating them before and after the
So then
sentence.
the review is open to everything.
Correct, which is the case either way you read it.
So, read your proposed amendment again.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan legislature to mandate and fund a comprehensive independent review of the November 30th, 2021 tragedy, including but not limited to the emergency response, relevant events, and agencies before, during, and after the tragedy.
I'm gonna have to think about that to support that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
Even if we want to just relax for a couple of minutes, I can.
So it's not limiting anything else.
Can you?
I guess my focus of having the emergency response wording before everything else, what are we doing? What's the alarm?
What do you think?
It's the freezer.
Freezer.
Okay.
That is the focus of the review, is the emergency response. Do you see what I mean? Because when you take that out and then you're starting that the focus
really broad, really vague.
That's how it should be.
Ellen?
That's just the way I read it.
And the opportunity, I think, from a vague perspective, and it would love the opportunity to have us talk about this right now. Let's not be vague. And it's open. So what do we agree upon when it comes to fully open, honest transparency when it comes to the investigation? So I think we're probably splitting hairs as far as the way it's worded, maybe, but emergency response, comma, relevant events and agencies during, before, and after. So it's inserting a statement of, we're adding that in, all open, let's get it all done, right? And I'm open to understand if I'm misinterpreting what Amanda's mentioned and what I kind of see as the same. It should be wide open, unlimited.
Can you, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to repeat your amendment again. I keep looking at this and then I just need to listen to what you're saying.
Absolutely. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan Legislature to mandate and fund a comprehensive independent review of the November 30th, 2021 tragedy, including but not limited to the emergency response, relevant events, and agencies before, during, and after the tragedy.
I don't think I can support that. We can't hear you.
Pardon me? I don't think I can support that.
Of course you can.
Why? What are we hiding?
Why not?
Why?
I can support an independent review of the emergency response of November 30th. I can support that.
What about you guys?
I feel like Guidepost already thoroughly looked at the school response. And I just have a really hard time putting our staff through that again, and our students.
So
and our
imagine it was
families.
your child. Imagine it was your child.
You might want to shut them off, please.
Imagine it was your child that was murdered.
Okay. I would like to ask for a little bit of respect and quietness while the board discusses and talks, and we are more than happy to hear everything that you have to say. But if you could just give us a few minutes, I know that this is the first time that some people are hearing this and may need to focus. So thank you in advance for that respect. And we will continue the conversation and take a few minutes as we need up here.
So if I may ask a question, for clarity. If we look at the last part of that sentence, and if we take it just from including but not limited to relevant events and agencies during, before, during, and after the tragedy. I understand the statement about emergency response, comma. But would we not agree that agencies would then constitute emergency response as part of the agencies that would be, could that not be the same statement? Without, if we're splitting hairs on the statement of emergency response, are the agencies in this question, or in this part of the statement, part of what we're discussing? The agencies are first responders.
Yes, I do believe so. It is right. It would be all agencies as part of that. And look, at the end of the day, this is our recommendation recommendation. We are not the Michigan legislature.
Right.
We will be making the decision of who, when, how, if. This is our recommendation to them. And so that is my opinion, is that we do keep emergency response, but we move it to after the independent review where it says including but not limited to, which would, of course,
Open it up.
include, it already is, in my opinion, prior to the amendment. But, again, this is our recommendation to our lawmakers above us.
So emergency response, would the board discuss the verbiage change from emergency response in the same section to all agencies versus emergency response? Would that open it and still achieve the goal of the investigation and stating all agencies?
I suppose you could, but in the context of this specific resolution, where we have positioned in front, which we have not read yet because it has not been put to vote, but in the context of the entire beginning of this resolution where it leads up to, I think that's why it is important to keep emergency response in, but to phrase it differently. That is my opinion.
So I know you made your motion for amending it. Who was your second, just so I can mark it down?
Mike, I believe,
Yes.
I wrote it down. And we can vote when you're ready, but I don't want to rush anybody, so.
Can you tell me which one, please?
Mike Aldridge.
Aldred.
Can you send me your wording in an email real quick?
Would anybody else like on here?
I just think it's worth noting that the other two versions that we do have specifically do not include that wording in that way.
Some of these don't include a reference at all to that.
Right.
So,
I just want to make note that the advice that we have sought on this, and it is done with great care and great consideration for the very important issue that it is. And everyone here wants to get it right. Everyone here wants to help. But I just want to point that out.
thank you. I do not want to rush anybody, so if anybody would just like to tell me when you're ready, we can go about it in that way. And as a reminder, it would be voting on the amendment first. Whether that passes or fails, moving back to the original motion.
opportunities to discuss in any manner, I think we ought to take the opportunity to do that. Absolutely. Just so, again, I'm good, I'll wait all night. We need to make the right decision to be better, so.
Let's talk about it.
There's a question on the floor, so.
Okay, so. I see everyone has been thinking, is if there's anything else that you want to say about it, or we can start with the amendment. Vote on that, like I said. And then move back to the motion on the resolution, depending on how the amendment. Now, this is just the amendment, again, this does not mean that the resolution itself passes or fails. This is simply the motion that I suggested, okay? So that we're all on the same page here. Okay. And this is just a majority vote, so. Are we roll call? Should we do roll call? Okay. Yeah.
This is after roll.
Okay, on the amendment.
Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Whitney?
Yes.
Atchison?
No.
Schultz?
No.
Summers? No. McDonough?
Yes.
Aldred?
Yes.
All right, no majority doesn't pass.
Okay, that was just the amendment. Time vote. The amendment has failed. We still have the motion on the floor for board resolution number 1 in its form without the amendment. Like to move to discussion here? We already had a second, right?
Yeah.
Make sure.
Yes.
So we did. Okay, thank
But
you.
just to be clear, there could be an additional amendment,
There-
correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
anyone could introduce an additional amendment at this time.
Over, open to discussing the whole document?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you clarify the importance of the third paragraph? This was not on a previous draft that I had seen, so I'm just wondering what actually the third and the fourth.
This was added not by anybody on the board, and I am not sure legally what I am allowed to say about that.
So it was like a suggestion,
Yes,
or
it was a suggestion, and
Okay.
in no way was this.
It was by a board, yes, like it
Oh.
came from,
It came from a
Yeah,
member of the board.
yeah.
Okay.
so
I did not
that's, yeah,
know. Okay.
this is our group, like just.
This is our mashup of
Okay.
what we all agree on,
Okay,
or what we submitted.
okay, this came to be someone,
So,
and we can certainly discuss removing this portion.
you're just asking context of why, or?
Right, a little background of what what the importance is seen as including either or both of those sections. Since I hadn't seen it in a previous version.
I can talk to it a little bit. I think it sets the stage, as those other whereas, right? It's setting the stage of why we're making this resolution at all. And as those people have publicly stated, concerns, right, with the, I guess, not having formal action or after action report, and some of the communication concerns the day of.
Okay, I guess I'm just looking for clarity, because this topic is not new. So I wasn't under the assumption that either of those paragraphs were important in the board discussing this before, because this predated those. If I understand that.
Yeah,
So I guess I
our
was
discussion
not,
started well before the
Right.
dates on these, correct?
so
You are absolutely
I don't
correct.
see that as being important as to what the board does.
These are just the news highlights, essentially. You know, it talks about quotes in newspapers. And personally, I don't have a huge opinion on keeping or omitting these. It is just simply facts that add to the precursor to the resolution, right? And both of these events, speaking of the fire chief and the Oakland County Sheriff, have happened since we began discussions on this. So the relevancy, personally, I'm fine either way on this one.
And honestly, I do too, but I know those articles, instances, did bring concerns to the current lawmakers. Right. They specifically, some of them specifically commented on, well, I thought this, but now that I'm seeing this article from, whether it was the chief or either one, or the sheriff, we're trying to highlight obviously the need.
I didn't think it was pretty clear.
But
But I just don't want it muddied as to why are we quoting these individuals that have nothing to do with.
I guess to us in Oxford, it's
Right.
very clear. To some, it's not as much.
If we go back to earlier when we were discussing clarity and understanding and from a terminology or a word, right? In my opinion, the third and fourth paragraph give relevant narrative to the overall investigation with recent information that's been gathered about our tragedy with the 4 that we've lost, leading up into include the investigation. So it's, in my opinion, it would be a supporting factors in the investigation. And we're calling it, it's being called out here in this document for clarity.
I think that if we're looking for supporting factors, I think there's stronger ones. So that's why I'm saying I just want discussion on these 2 in particular because they don't do it for me. I think that the discrepancy between these 2, the fact that there's contradicting accounts from these 2, that's not in here. And that should be in there if that's what you want.
I think it's a great point. If there are better examples, then I think it's great to put them in.
Yeah, I just
Right?
think it could
Or
be
add to
stronger. So if it's good, if that's what it's there for, then let's make it stronger.
Do you have an amendment that you would like to add? To do so?
For clarity, would it be appropriate to read the proposed resolution to the public since this is a public meeting? Here you're discussing something that you keep private from the public in a public meeting. It's not appropriate. You need to read it out loud, please. It's your obligation to this.
I get that, no, I get that. I understand. I understand, I 100% understand where you're coming from. And I would really appreciate the opportunity to discuss some things first before we read the entire document and change or don't change. I can tell you quite openly what we're talking about right now are the news articles from July 11th and August 15th speaking to Sheriff Michael Bouchard and the Oakland Township Fire Chief and the conflicting reports. So
We're
that's,
aware of the issue.
Okay, all right.
We're just curious, why are you discussing a private detail on your desk that's not open to the public? It contradicts your role as board member.
Because it's not approved yet as a full resolution from the board yet.
But
It's a
it's
draft.
proposal. How could you make a proposal if you don't read it?
We make a motion, we second it, we discuss it. Once it's approved, then the whole thing will be read out.
Okay,
The
I
full
will.
resolution stands.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Let's just try to do this as smoothly as possible from our side. And right now, we can continue discussion if you would like to make an amendment. If you're not ready for that, if you want to continue discussion, let's talk about it, okay?
We need to talk about it. So let's have a great conversation.
There is no formal amendment on the table right now. We still have only the resolution only the motion for the resolution. So whenever we're ready, we can either move forward on voting just on that, or if it sounds like through discussion, there may be potentially an amendment coming. And so I want to give everybody the opportunity before we move any further.
I think it's important to keep those in some form. I'm open to striking both of those and rewording them. But that's really what a lot of this is about for me.
Okay.
It was my understanding, like those parts, like all the whereases of the state facts and data, and going through, and that's relevant for the now for, or now therefore be resolved, and the rest of it. I don't know. I think they're fine. I mean, it's relevant to latest stuff that adds continuance to it, what we're talking and considering, and the reason why.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, and I've heard the sentiment, it sounds like a report. If you want to take a couple minutes, let me know. If you want to add an amendment, let me know.
And look at the highlighted one on number 3. Because that's sort of a succinct way of combining the 2 paragraphs.
Well, that's a resolution. That's not 4 you're talking about, the highlight, so the 4th paragraph?
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's part of the resolution.
Right, so you can
But-
change it to whereas.
For the amendment, you're saying, use that as the whereas and
Yeah,
replace.
it was just like a launching point for Ann to look for different verbiage.
I don't, no, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I would love to offer a amendment. I apologize that I don't have one prepared because I hadn't seen it before, so
You could,
I don't want to waste
ask that we
time.
completely remove it. if that's
No,
what
I
you're
don't want to
referring
remove it. I appreciate everyone's opinion that it is important, it does make sense, but the progression.
Like, what more do you?
The I just think that the contradicting accounts is important, that there's a reason, because there's not a clear timeline, even from leaders such as these. And that, I think, holds incredible weight, that there's a discrepancy, just those timelines right there. I feel like that is much stronger than just quoting Jennifer Chambers, who says she's quoting those individuals.
So I definitely want to understand the discrepancy between these two accounts
Yes.
versus, or is it between these two, that's
Between
it?
the two. Because they don't
Isn't
agree.
that what part of what the investigation that we're going to vote on is going to do, is the full open, let's
Yep.
go get the facts. of
Yes,
it.
but that doesn't mention that here.
Okay.
So I think that kind of glosses over.
Isn't it now to be resolved, is that what that is? Those are facts at the top, but the bottom is now to be resolved, is the actual voting to have the investigation opened.
Right.
The facts up top are part of what will be included in the investigation.
Right, but nowhere in it is, in those facts is it mentioned that there's the contradicting accounts between those two.
Do we add that in then?
That's fine.
So you're saying possibly just strike both of those?
No,
Because they're,
let's make them better.
okay. Okay.
I mean, I definitely see what you're saying, but it could be worded, you know, a little more clear, but at the same time, I also see how offering the two conflicting reports leads you to presume that there are two conflicting reports.
I mean, if they're their claims that they made in these articles, then, so we're referencing these articles, but we're not referencing what's important about them, is that they don't agree. Did you? You know what I mean?
But I think that adds substance to why we get to the further part of let it be resolved when we go into the next thought. Like even though these two articles talk about them disagreeing on the council timelines, stuff like that, again, you know, whereas on these dates for Sheriff Bouchard and Fire Chief, again, like data points of, I don't want to say justifying, it's not the right word, but the leading up, the reasons of the why, that then we are there calling for the resolution that is stated below that.
And if I could ask a question. The board previously declined the amendment proposed that included emergency response. Am I understanding discussing two of the emergency response sections of the proposed resolution?
No, we're talking about the whereas sections about what we just.
Right, but those are the entities of the emergency response, right?
So emergency response is still going to be in what I read was my amendment that failed.
That changed the wording of that section.
How the section reads right now on your paper paper, which I will read. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan Legislature to mandate and fund a comprehensive independent review of the emergency response to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy, including but not limited to relevant events and agencies during, before, and after the tragedy. Which mine still has a typo, so I hope I said that right.
Yes.
Okay, so that is how it reads as of now. There was no change. So, yep, I know, I just, like I said, I want to make sure everybody is clear here. We are all on the same page and understanding, and I don't want anyone to feel as if you're rushed or anything like that.
100%, I just want to make sure we understand that those two sections, how they may or may not correlate in the supporting that fashion of this resolution. Yeah.
I think Andy agrees with that, that's why she doesn't want to struck it out. It's that she thinks that it could be a little heavier, mentioning some timeline discrepancies in some way, shape, or form. Specifically mentioning, adding some question to the overall timeline that day, right? We know it, I mean, anybody that's read the article knows it. But to somebody that might be reading this from somewhere, a couple of miles away in our state.
So when you do a report in college and you reference an article that you pulled from 1967 newspaper that none of us were there, or most of us maybe not, but you're going to reference an article, date, time, where it's from. Would we agree that for both of these, adding the statement at the end as a reference to the interview and/or article dated by at the end, would that suffice as to the details allowing anyone who's reading it, understanding it, seeing it, involved in it, to go back and look at that? No?
You're talking about secondary sources.
Yeah.
Secondary sources, but
It's been a long time since I've been in college, so I'm just trying to figure out, cite the resource and then go back and.
I mean, practically, that's what it is.
But we wouldn't do that in our resolutions.
I'm really just talking about the third paragraph mainly, right? That's the crux of it.
I know the crux is that these two articles that are referenced, July 11th and August 15th, show the discord from that response. Is that the reason they're referenced? Because how it reads is that doesn't matter, or that's not even raised. If you want to really hit it home, you should add the Board of Commissioners, and he's saying that that's not accurate either, that he was not asked for a review. So this is my first time seeing it. I would love to have something prepared for you to chew on, and you can, but I don't have anything. So I'm pulling up, this is Board of Commissioners article, this is, I don't have a motion to amend at this time, so.
Why don't we continue the discussion if there is more? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We can also recess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
please.
And she could keep working on that if we wanted to.
Sorry, that is definitely an option, so, all right. Moving further along into the resolution, would anybody like to discuss anything else, any parts, the whereas or after?
Just to confirm, the funding numbers, the House bills, the sections, we got those correct, right? I mean, we had gone back and forth to make sure that they were the correct ones.
Yeah. We had gone back and forth, and now I'm looking second.
No,
I feel like I have to
they
go
are.
for the
Yeah.
thousandth time.
No, they are, because I asked the
Okay.
question. and they're
Okay, because,
yeah.
yes.
because I had to look them up myself just to understand the House bill and make sure I know where it's at and such.
I think we've all read the back and front of this funding quite a few times.
Right.
I'm gonna propose we take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Great,
5
we
minutes.
can take a 5-minute.
Okay.
Really, it's 8:49. Okay, you're going to take a, yep,
Go for it.
Great.
a quick 5-minute break, and we'll be right back. everybody a minute to take their seats again. Okay, it is 9:01, and we're going back in session, and we left it off speaking of a possible amendment regarding the third and fourth paragraph of resolution number 1. And, I know I spoke to you for a minute, collecting thoughts. Do you have something that you would like to propose instead of these? No? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, why don't we talk about it? Because I think that you were on to a... It's on, I'm sorry. It's on. Sorry.
Okay, so Mayor, to our discussion earlier, I think when we are citing these, I think we need to cite under the assumption that, I don't know if the majority, but there's a number of our lawmakers that are not reading these articles, right? They're not even if we put here, they're not gonna look up the article, right? And so I think if we have, like, you know, terms or points of leverage, I guess I'll call, that we can add to the actual document and not just expect them to go find it, I think that's beneficial, I guess. So.
Like include a link, you mean?
No, I'm saying like we're kind of doing with
Okay.
that specific point. Yeah, we vaguely touched on 2 of the articles and some general comments that they made, and I think those comments do give context to our first resolution, right? And why we think that needs to be done.
Right.
But I think there are points that'll nail that home a little more. One being discrepancies, right? The
And
time-
that's what
the
it
timeline
is
discrepancies.
the fact that our trusted local agencies are having discrepancies between the reports and the facts that have come out, and so that's pretty much the overall.
I mean, if you look on just Open County, right? I think in the one article, I believe it was Woodward that said, he was in the understanding that everything went flawless, right? And so you see that in someone that's relatively close in proximity to us. Now I think we're also speaking to the guy up in, Glen Arbor or whatnot as well. So with our hope that this gets picked up by somebody, because really, I mean, what this is just our an ask, ultimately, right?
That's literally all we're trying to do is
Right.
get the ask out and then let the legislation handle the rest, because we're gonna support it, right? So my question is, if there's more teeth that need to be put in these, okay, then let's do that. How can we put that in here so that we can collectively move forward, right? So if there's something that needs to go in here, then let's collectively discuss how we can move forward. But the other part of it is the discrepancies between these 2 agencies is in part why we want them, right? So
Good point. Right.
That's the whole
For sure,
point of
that's the
it.
point.
Right.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, all right. Well, that's,
I guess,
was
I mean,
there any
from
other
a-
point in any part of the resolution that we wanted to discuss? Because I'm assuming this is the last one, but I could be wrong, so I want to make sure that everybody would be comfortable with the rest.
Well, that's kind of what I was gonna say. I don't know how we format this, but from a systematic standpoint, can we say, like, the last paragraph, the last resolution, right, about calling for the enacting of the House Bill 5549? Anybody see any issues with that?
No.
Like, so can we, the second class, right, calling for the Michigan legislature to pass supplemental state budget that increases average specifically, section 31AA funding and 31N. In that, anyone have any concerns? No. For that? Okay.
And there was one more.
I guess the third to last. I mean, this is actually moving forward, right? This is looking forward, similar to the commissions or the kind of the teams that they have set up in places like Texas and Florida, that any circumstance similar to ours will immediately form. There's an action plan at the state level that let me see.
With subpoena power.
With subpoena power.
Some kind of task force.
Correct.
And our hope is that it's similar to, Parkland.
Right.
Yeah. And
Are there any concerns?
is everyone okay with wording on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else can pick it up.
We are getting there. All right. I like it. Okay. How you feeling, Ann?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Would you just like me to read this off, or do you want me to?
I would like you need to propose an amendment.
Okay.
For and specify where.
I move to amend paragraphs 3 and 4 of resolution number 1 to instead read, it's kind of long, so I might need to email it to you. Our trusted local emergency response agencies have conflicting reports as to the details of the facts pertaining to the response efforts on November 30th, 2021. 3 recent articles in the Detroit News exhibit the alarming discrepancy between the agencies in response to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy. On July 11th, 2024, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard stated he would like to have an analysis of this like the Parkland, and we have not been able to get anybody to fund it. On August 14, 2024, Oxford Fire Chief Matthew Majestic and Addison Fire Chief Jerry Morawski stated they were not notified timely by Oakland County Sheriff Department, that should be office, to respond to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy and instead dispatched themselves. On August 15, 2024, in response to Sheriff Bouchard's claim that he was denied when his office requested funding for an after-action review or third-party review, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Board Chairman David Woodward stated, "I was never asked about an after-action review, nor were any commissioners, and no amendment was ever offered for such an action." Do you want me to email it to you?
Please.
Okay. I need to change that to office.
Are you sending it to all of us?
Yes.
Do we have the amendment yet proposed for that?
I'm sorry, she just did, so we need a second.
So we need a second.
I'll second.
James, thank you.
Self-dispatched? Should we change that?
I mean, that's up to, I guess, the board, we're talking about it, but she had written before, instead of dispatch themselves, but the specific, my understanding was the specific terminology used was self-dispatch, that's all.
I think that's accurate.
Here.
I'll leave that version out, so if I'm going to review it.
And as I'm taking proper notes here, then the amendment proposed for the reading there was to replace those two with that. What she's sending us, correct?
Correct.
Those two
So paragraphs 3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 and 4 with this.
Yes.
Okay. I just make sure I have everything correctly noted now.
There it is. Okay. trusted local emergency response agencies have conflicting reports as to the details of the facts pertaining to the response efforts on November 30th, 2021. 3 recent articles in the Detroit News exhibit the alarming discrepancy between the agencies in response to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy. On July 11, 2024, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard stated he would like to have an analysis of this like the Parkland, and we have not been able to get anybody to fund it. On August 14, 2024, Oxford Fire Chief Matthew Majestic and Addison Fire Chief Jerry Morawski stated they were not notified timely by Oakland County Sheriff Office to respond to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy and instead self-dispatched. On August 15, 2024, in response to Sheriff Bouchard's claim that he was denied when his office requested funding for an after-action review or third-party review, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Board Chairman David Woodward stated, "I was never asked about an after-action review, nor were any commissioners, and no amendment was ever offered for such an action."
It's just like
Yeah, that was that's why I took it from.
That's
That's
the
the
continuing
one
quote we keep getting.
It's the,
It's, I don't know if it was
I'm not
a
saying it's a good
typo
quote.
the one
in
I'm
the paper
reading,
or,
which.
like, that's what it's got right here in number 1.
I don't know
Like,
if Sheriff Bouchard finished like the Parkland
Did you see that?
report or, yeah.
Because I have.
So we can pull up the Detroit News.
Yeah.
I'm not reading it all.
Did. Yeah, I got it. My internet has been really rough in here. I don't know if anyone else's has gone in and out. It's not showing up in my sent.
Personally, I like it.
I can pass my computer around.
I'm in support of that. I don't need to read it again, that's why I asked you here
Yeah.
to read it again.
I've heard it enough, but if somebody else would like her to repeat.
Or if you want to go over there and read it on the computer.
Is there any opposition to moving forward to the vote on the amendment right now? No, more minutes, anybody?
I just obviously want to make sure the quote's correct.
Okay. Fair enough.
Amanda, if I could, wouldn't it be, once you're done, wouldn't it be appropriate to read it in its entirety and give the community a chance to make a comment considering the importance of the staff?
Almost there. Thank you for your patience.
We
It's
don't
been a
know
long
what
night.
she's changing.
Oh, the changing is the paragraph that we spoke about that talks about, it references the July 11th, 2024 article and the August 15th, 2024 article. So the entire reason that she's changing, and I agree with, and it sounds like most of us do, is that we're not, we don't love the way that this is worded because the way that she is wording it gets really to the reason, and I'll read it out loud. It says, Michael Bouchard told Jennifer Chambers of the Detroit News that he would like an after-action report completed regarding the emergency response at Oxford High School on November 30th, 2021, and stated, in quotes, "I would like to have an analysis of this like the Parkland, and we have not been able to get anybody to fund it," end quote. That's paragraph 3, right? And so that is what we are seeking to make the point that there are discrepancies.
And I guess our point is, without hearing the totality of the content, we have no context to make any input to.
Okay, so that was paragraph 3? And
In reality, this should have
that's
been
it.
done in closed session if we weren't gonna hear the whole thing. It's great.
So then you go on to say this is why we need the investigation. Then that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's like any resolution, speaking about the facts first and then what our recommendation entirety very, very shortly. I'm hoping next year, sorry, depending on the vote.
As soon as we agree on this
It's-
paragraph.
I think everyone else is good on it, and,
Mike was able to find.
I just.
just got it.
Just because James needed to touch it.
James has the touch.
As soon as you let him talk. But yes, this is right here.
So add the whereas at the beginning.
Yep.
And then change the.
It's just.
Like Parkland.
Like Parkland. That's the correct quote.
So get rid of the word thought.
The correct.
Okay.
That's all put together.
I just want to make sure that's correct for when we finish. Adding whereas in the beginning.
Yes, adding whereas.
And removing the word the in Bouchard's quote.
I would just like to say that these three articles, so the information gleaned from these three articles is not anything that the board has had anything to do with. It's just laying out the facts that right here in these recent articles, there's different accounts and discrepancies, disagreements over what happened. That's why I think it's relevant. So if we're going to include anything about media coverage, which is what I think paragraphs 3 and 4 help to paint the picture, if that's what we're going for, then that seems more relevant to me.
Did anybody have any additional comments on that? Okay, so that amendment is on the table right now.
And we've had a second.
And we've had a second.
It was a discussion.
And we've discussed, and everybody has had their chance. Okay, great. So, roll call.
Yeah. All right. Make notes here. Cully?
Yes.
Summers, yes. Aldred?
Yes.
Whitney?
Yes.
Atchison?
Yes.
And McDonough?
Yes.
All right, that passed.
Right, fantastic. So, that amendment has passed. We are back to the original motion for resolution number 1, which would now include the amendment that we just approved. We had a motion, we had a second. We have had a lot of discussion this evening. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
You might.
I'm going to repeat all of that. We've had a motion, we've had a second, we have had a lot of discussion. We are on resolution number 1 and have already approved the amendment from Ann. So with that being said, is there any further discussion? Fantastic. James, would you like to do roll call?
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
Could you read the paragraph that you wanted originally that was failed and what it ended up being with the failure?
I think we'll read
That's
everything
coming.
in a
The
second.
whole thing's coming, but I will read as soon as we vote, and
Okay.
if it passes, then I will be able to read everything. Okay.
And then it will be part of the minutes. And
Correct, and it will be
Published.
posted and
Yes.
published, and yes.
Okay, I'm ready. I just have to make some notes here. So, all right, roll call for this with the amendment. Number one, Aldred.
Yes.
Colleen.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Colleen.
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes.
Summers, yes. And McDonough.
Yes.
All right, majority vote passes.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you, fellow board members. This has been a long process, and I appreciate you supporting this very much. It's meant a lot, and I know to our community and staff and parents, and so thank you. This time I will read our resolution. Whereas on November 30th, 2021, in Oxford High School, 4 students, Hannah St. Juliana, Tate Meir, Justin Schilling, and Madison Baldwin, were killed. 6 students and 1 staff member were injured, and hundreds of others terrorized. Whereas the Oxford Board of Education commissioned an independent third-party investigation following this tragic event. The commission report was released in October of 2023 and left many families, staff, and community members questioning details not included in the report, such as the response efforts of law enforcement, first responders, and other involved parties and agencies. Whereas our trusted local emergency response agencies have conflicting reports as to the details of the facts pertaining to the response efforts on November 30th, 2021. 3 recent articles in the Detroit News exhibit the alarming discrepancy between the agencies in response to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy. On July 11th, 2024, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard stated he would like to have an analysis of this like Parkland, and we have not been able to get anybody to fund it. On August 14th, 2024, Oxford Fire Chief Matthew Majestic and Addison Fire Chief Jerry Morowski stated they were not notified timely by Oakland County Sheriff Office to respond to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy, and instead self-dispatched. On August 15th, 2024, in response to Sheriff Bouchard's claim that he was denied when his office requested funding for an after-action review or third-party review, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Board Chairman David Woodward stated, "I was never asked about an after-action review, nor were any commissioners, and no amendment was ever offered for such an action." Whereas the data related to all school shooting events must be available to all Michigan public schools, law enforcement, and emergency response agencies in order to effectively improve response protocols for schools for the purpose of preventing future loss of life throughout Michigan. Whereas the mental health needs of Michigan students continue to outweigh the school-based resources available, infringing on the safe, supportive learning environment each student needs to reach their full potential. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan Legislature to mandate and fund a comprehensive independent review of the emergency response to the November 30th, 2021 tragedy, including but not limited to relevant events and agencies during, before, and after the tragedy. Be it further resolved in any circumstance where a student has died or multiple students die as a result of a significant safety-related event, the Oxford Board of Education recommends that the Michigan Legislature mandate a full and funded independent investigation by a coordinated team of appropriate and diverse state agencies, subject matter experts, and local community members that will collaborate and coordinate with one another. This team or commission should be granted subpoena powers to aid in a fully transparent investigation. Be it further resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan Legislature to pass a supplemental state budget that increases average per pupil funding and invests in student safety and mental health safety, makes recurring all of the Section 31AA funding and Section 31N funding for children's mental health and school safety, and to increase said budgets in subsequent years.
Be it finally resolved that the Oxford Board of Education calls upon the Michigan Legislature to enact House Bill 5549, which requires suicide and threat assessment to be a part of every emergency operations plan, and threat assessment training be available in a train-the-trainer model for all districts in the state within 2 years of legislative passage and funding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. We did. That's why you read it.
Okay, all right. Okay. We will move on unless anybody has anything else to say on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I was gonna wait till after my final comments, but I can say it now because it's more open. I mean, this is just an ask, right? So what we need to do now is actually put the work in, right? Put pressure on, more pressure on legislation. And get out there, whether it's trips. I know, board members on this board have made trips to Lansing, and this is some of it's out there discussing, right? So actually doing the work is one thing to pass, and I don't want to take away from this resolution at all, right? But it's one thing to pass this, right? It's another just to actually try to get it done.
There's a trip to Lansing coming up September that I'm gonna be there.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, and Mike. Thanks for that. Okay. We will move into unscheduled public comment. Have the card. Sorted by topic. So we will go ahead and start with Angela Halleck.
Good evening. I'm here to speak about the Chromebooks first. At the end of 5th grade, my son was given the Chromebook to keep through, and then for the summer, and then bring it in for 6th grade and keep with him through 9th. As his parents, my husband and I read over the Chromebook handbook with him, the technology resources user agreement, purchased the optional but strongly encouraged per the letter insurance program. We signed an agreement for this Chromebook that had a 15-digit serial number and an oct tag to identify it. So when you say that parents were under the impression to get those back, yeah, we were under the impression. We signed a contract for it. And then at the end of 6th grade, it was taken back, told that it was going to be collected for maintenance and given back to him last week. We raised our child to respect property and not to leave a single mark on that electronic device. His Chromebook was in pristine condition when he returned it. On his first day of school last Thursday, entering 7th grade, the Chromebooks were handed out in advisory. His Chromebook was a disaster. It had inappropriate carvings throughout the entire computer. There was not a protective case on it. The USB port was not intact, and that was just the physical findings. I emailed his advisory teacher and principal, accompanied with pictures. The next day, his advisory teacher took him to the tech desk. And a thank you to her for taking that time out of her day to do this. So the second device had a half protector on it, many scratches, paint, there was markings everywhere. The principal also replied and stated the new tech person would be able to assist with this. Third visit yesterday, he went to the tech desk. She said she can't find his original Chromebook. There's not a way to find it. She's added a back cover to the Chromebook and sent him on his way. Fourth visit today,
Now you have 2 tech support staffs behind the desk, and he was told all the Chromebooks went to the incoming 6th graders, and he was given a 3rd Chromebook, completely dead, not charged at all, sent back to class with a non-operating Chromebook. On August 13th at the school board meeting, you approved $139,000 of computers for shared time schools. You said it was important to do immediately because a delay in ordering would be a delay for students to access their curriculum. But for my 7th grader, he can't access his curriculum. And now he's missing his education because he has to spend his time going to the tech desk. So what happened to the contract that I signed? And what are you teaching my child? That he can carve and disrespect school property? Second point, last Friday, the elementary schools for 4th grade received 59 books on the Democratic Party. The teachers were supposed to teach these government books as part of the curriculum. The purpose of education, particularly in elementary schools, should be to encourage critical thinking, exploration, and understanding of multiple viewpoints. However, the current material seems to promote a particular political ideology without offering a balanced discussion of alternative perspectives. The presentation for curriculum that was approved last year had 0 political candidates, and all the book covers were pictures of kids and places. Lastly, if we are going to keep these books and expect our elementary schools to teach this in government, I too am expecting 59 books on and about the Republican Party. And until that happens, all those books need to be removed. We need to have equal playing fields. We are a district that pushes being principled.
Danielle Crozak.
Oh, so she was the one who I was going to.
Did you fill out a card with your name on it?
Well, my name is next to it, to Danielle's, but Danielle, she no longer needs her statement written.
Okay.
And she appreciates the opportunity to have been heard.
Okay, so you have no comment?
I have no comment on behalf of Danielle. I have
You
a
have a comment
comment on behalf of Linda Jo White. Yep.
Okay, let's have Linda.
So do you want Danielle or Linda Jo White?
Who are you in the time?
Okay.
Right.
Y'all are awesome. Thank you.
I love you.
And I love you too.
All right, so thank you. First of all, I just want to say good evening. Thank you for everything, the opportunity to come before you. My name is Linda Jo White, and I am a boy mom of a graduating 2025 Oxford senior. Tonight, many of us sit here having had the simple luxury of enjoying an incredible summer vacation. Trips to the lake, fishing, jet skiing, maybe to NYC or Chicago to the art museums, maybe even Cedar Point, definitely guitar strumming and some s'mores around the bonfire, or for some like my son, spending several weeks as a volunteer camp counselor pouring into the lives of littles. All sorts of families doing all sorts of things that created the most incredible summer vacay memories. But some sit here this evening having been robbed of these simple luxuries that come with an incredible summer vacay and the creation of those assumed family summer memories because of the events and conversely the lack of events which have and have not taken place over the past couple of years. Some never got to partake in the memories made. Madison's family never got to partake in the memories made from celebrating her 20th birthday or spending time with her 100-year-old great-grandfather who recently went to join her in heaven. Hannah's family never got to partake in the memories made from simply witnessing Hannah living every moment, laughing every day, and loving beyond words. Justin's family never got to partake in the memories made as they head over to the lake, over there to Lake Huron, wandering through the rocks, taking pics, and feeling the peace and serenity that only comes from feeling that gentle summer breeze coming off of our Michigan shorelines. And Tate's family, they never got to partake in all those memories made by participating in this old-time tradition we have in Oxford, football, right? Great memories. Or partake in every precious and priceless memory made as they spend time with his mom as she fights to live and live so very strong. They never got to. Can you even imagine? And can you even imagine that they'll never get to? Well, I can't imagine, and I find it unacceptable that they can't imagine. So that's why I sit here at the beginning of this new school year, a hopeful boy mom of a 17-year-old Oxford senior who Hannah so graciously befriended in the 8th grade during challenging times, and who Tate, in true Tate fashion, graciously provided support, inspiration, and leadership while he was just a freshman trying out for football. This is why this boy mom sits here tonight, knowing that time is no respecter of persons and knows that those who are not fought for are soon forgotten. I sit here respectfully and emphatically demanding that you do what only you could do on the school board, and that is to put forth that resolution. I wrote that before y'all just did what you did. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for having the courage. I want to say thank you for acting like William Wallace when he said, stand up to the tyranny and to the bullcrap. I want to thank you, and I want to implore you to move forward as if it was your child that was murdered on that day. Skip the semantics, get down to business, and make it happen. You have an opportunity to do it right. Thank you. My name is Linda Jo White. I'm here to support the family and friends and all those who will never get to create more precious and priceless memories with Madison, Hannah, Justin, and Tate. Thank you.
Steve St. Juliana.
Good evening. I just want to, first of all, thank you for passing that resolution. And in addition, for the discussion that took part, that led up to it. As I said last time that I was in front of you, sometimes that's as important as the actual what you do, is the why and explaining your thought process, etc. So I want to thank you for that. I do, however, want to highlight one example of just why that resolution is so important. So earlier this evening, you talked about the communication policy, I don't remember what it was, AG, whatever. And you talked about defining credible, yes, thank you.
Yep.
Credible versus non-credible threat. And I just want to remind you that the whole Birdhead incident was deemed non-credible and was mishandled. Went on to talk about, well, you know, threat assessments and all of this are done by multi-party, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we heard last time. That was the official policy of Oxford.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, right? So, to me, that was just a preeminent example of why this resolution was so important, is to highlight all of these things, not just the emergency response or the actions of the shooter, but all of these things that led up to this, that pointed to what was going to happen and were mishandled. So I just wanted to bring that example. I thought it was a perfect example for this evening. I wish I had a chance to speak about that before you voted, but it all worked out, so thank you again.
Kara Erskine.
Like many others, just want to say thank you for passing the resolution. I do have a few questions because it seems very unclear. I know earlier when Amanda had made that amendment, Holly was very adamant that she wasn't going to vote yes for it because she didn't want it seemed like she didn't want the school to be investigated because I think her words was, I'm not putting the staff through that again. And then she voted yes for the overall amendment, which kind of makes me wonder if the resolution then means that the school was not going to be investigated, So some clarification on that would be very useful. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kira. Linda Jo, I found another one for you, right?
No, but I will speak on, whoever needs me to stand up for him, I will. I got him.
Renee Alvin, please.
I wasn't planning on speaking again this evening, but I found all of this so needlessly confusing. First, thank you, Amanda. Mike, thank you for your words and your show of emotion. Emotion's often lacking from this board, so I
Yes.
appreciate your words and your emotion. It means a lot to us. Gosh, I don't know where to start. I guess I'm confused, as was just said, on whether you guys are approving investigations of everybody except you, or if you're approving investigations of Oxford as well. That's my hope. I'm not sure, the 3 no votes confused me a little bit as well, especially if families wanted a yes vote on that. What families want, we want. So if you voted no on that and families want it, I think it's disgraceful. And Colleen, I have to, with all due respect, I think you are woefully out of touch if you don't want an investigation because you won't put staff through that. The staff is already suffering, right? I talk to staff, I know a lot of people that work here, they're already suffering, and many of them want an investigation. So it's really students you're letting down, not the staff. So I would talk to more staff if you really think you don't want to put them through anything because they're already in bad shape. And you should know that, actually. So thank you. I hope that Oxford will be investigated. I hope that's what's going to happen. Lawyers have spoken for you since the shooting. The kids know it, the families know it, the country knows it. That's been disgraceful. That has to change. It's been almost 3 years. I work in a different district now. They cannot believe that this has not been wrapped up, that you have not made this happen before now. So please make sure it happens. We will be back. We will be back, and we are also in Lansing. We talked to the Michigan School Board. We're talking to the Michigan Superintendent of Schools. We're asking them to hold you accountable. Please hold yourselves accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Marissa Prince?
She had
left,
to
okay.
leave, yeah.
Thank you. Shirley Tomzak?
Good evening. I've been a member of this district for over 50 years. I'm currently the grandmother of 2 Oxford high school students, one of whom is a senior, so she was in the 200 hall and saw 2 of her friends shot, wounded. They survived. I've been coming to board meetings since then, and I can't believe it's taken this long for you to understand that a thorough investigation had to be made. I know many of you weren't here originally in that time, but I'm relieved, I'm thankful that you voted for this, but I understand what Mike said. I have been a fighter for social justice for over 50 years, and I know it's a fight. And I know this resolution is a first step. It's almost 3 years late, but it's a first step. And we must insist that the legislature or the Attorney General, whoever has the power to make this investigation happen, we need to stand up and make sure that they make it happen. So thank you for your vote tonight, and let's keep fighting.
Craig Schilling.
Good evening. I'd like to start out by saying thank you for finally seeing the light and passing this resolution. Over the past 3 years, it's been a lot. It's been very difficult, and there's been so much emotion and so much work that's been put into all of this. It's been an event that has changed lives and moved people beyond their limits. I never thought that I'd be in a position like this, to where I would have to address a board with regarding this type of a situation. But the more shocking part about it is that I also would never thought that it would take this long and be this difficult to get the obvious and most absolutely necessary things done in the wake of a tragedy like this. I want to let you know, and everybody else who's listening, that I will forever be tainted with disgust over the sheer lack of compassion and respect from the school as well as the state. Their unwillingness to take the deep dive into exposing the root cause of this tragedy is a slap in the face that will ever resonate within me. I appreciate the fact that you have finally made the effort, and I hope that you can follow through and guide this community to a brighter light. Dr. Milligan, we put our trust in you, and you know, I welcome your insight and your experiences to help out with this, our healing process. It's nice to see your interaction and the smiles on the youth of the community. And it's nice to see that you genuinely care. And it's hard to see messages like, we love our students, we miss them in the summer. I love my son, I have to miss him forever. And to sit here and just say something like, we welcome them back with open arms, I don't get that opportunity. So just take that in consideration and your pursuit for the healing for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Callie Rosser.
When I see it take so long to be around the bush and to agonize over a resolution that should have been done 3 years ago and should have been so simple, but it's so convoluted. I heard the words, some of those that you said in what I had said earlier. And what's interesting is that came from the DOJ investigation of Uvalde. And some of those words I used and some that were in there were in your resolution, except your resolution isn't asking for a DOJ investigation. It's asking for another entity to ask. And your obligation is to actually send a request in to the DOJ to have an investigation. There's one request in there for Santa Fe right now. The DOJ is looking at that. All you had to do is say, DOJ, we want an investigation. And there's no funding issues, there's no issues. And you would have had something like what we had in Uvalde. But now you're asking the legislature, which is a legislative body that just makes laws and appropriates funds, to do an investigation, and they have no subpoena power. Why would you do that? You have an agency that can do it. All you have to do is ask. As a matter of fact, the Township can ask, the village can ask, right? The sheriff's office can ask the DOJ to do it, and it'll be done, and it won't cost us money, and it'll be done right. So why are you beating around the bush with that? Credible threat, you're right back, and I agree with that, that really got my ears picked up. When you assess a threat, you assess it for threat level, right? It's a threat. If somebody's making a threat and you're actually having to research it, it's a threat to the institution. If nothing else, it caused disruption. It's a threat, right? You need to evaluate the level of threat, and then you need to determine if they have means, motive, motivation, all these other things, right? So there's all these assessment parts. Who makes the determination if it's credible or not? You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have a team of people that evaluate, right, the level of threat. You need to stop using the word credible. You're totally making it wrong. You're doing it wrong. It's so far wrong, it's shocking. And one last thing on the FOIA requests. I think you all need to hit the reset button on that. The documents belong to us. We paid for it. The law says they belong to us, and you're supposed to give them to us. And the law says quite clearly, you have to give them to us for free at no charge, unless failing to charge us would cause a financial burden for the school, right?
Yeah.
And if so, it has to be because of the nature of the particular request, and you have to tell us why you're charging us. That's the law, right? That's the law. I'm ready to challenge you on it, okay? You spend more money fighting FOIAs and getting attorneys to review it and respond than just producing the documents. That's not fiscally responsible, and I question why you're doing it. Just give us the information.
Buccaneer?
Good evening. Before I say thank you, I have a question as well. So is this investigation all-encompassing? Is this resolution, is it all-encompassing? Does it include everything? The school, before, during, after?
All relevant.
Everything.
agencies.
Okay, because as you guys are reading through that, there's a lot of focus on emergency response. So it just makes me, like, that needs to be one thing we focus on. But really, we need to get the answers and understand the failures of the school, because that's where we can drive the big change. I mean, huge change can happen from that. So, if it's all encompassing, and we're not focusing on just the emergency response, and you're saying that's what it is?
Would you like me to read? Just for.
No, I listened to it.
The way that I interpret it is, it says all relevant agencies. So if that is what is deemed that they would like to investigate, in my opinion, everyone might have, but the text says, including but not limited to relevant events and agencies before, during, and after.
Okay. I'm not the only one to question it, so, right? So the way it's written, it just seems kind of like it's a focus on that, so. So thank you. This has been, Mike, you mentioned, we gotta chase this. You got a chaser here, buddy. I'll chase it. Don't you worry about that. And you can help me chase it, right? And these guys behind me can help me chase it.
Hell yeah.
It's been a tough ride. The government is a tough nut to crack, but I'm a fighter, and I'm going to chase this, and that's my new. It's my new purpose in life, is to drive change from this. And that's what I'm going to do. Thank you.
Aaron
you for having me. I have my name's Aaron Elling. I have 2 kids in the district right now. I have a junior son and a 7th grade daughter. My daughter graduated last year. And on behalf of them, this is a big step in the right direction. Like Board Member Whitney said, we gotta, like, this is the first step. Like, we gotta get it going. When you go to the website for Oxford Community Schools, one of your values is accountability. And it's finally here. And it's hard to hear, Mrs. Schultz, you talk about like the teachers having a hard time. But guess what? You wanna know what sucks? Those four people's lives. Every day. It really sucks. So to hear like, hey, I'm just frustrated with, or like to sit there and listen to, I don't want the teachers to have to relive it. Well, some of those teachers haven't even answered a question yet. Right. And they need to.
Right.
So again, that's a great step. And then one more comment. We watched a 12-minute video on all the kids. Amazing days. Like my kids had a great 2 days. It was awesome to see. But and you said it's our why. If you want this community behind you and to be in lockstep with you, make those 4 people your why.
Right.
Make them your why. And make all your decisions that way. And everyone will be with you.
Right.
Okay? Thank you.
Trevor Potts.
Thank you for your action tonight. I don't need to speak anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us tonight. I know it's been a long evening. Thank you for all your comments and feedback. We have a list of scheduled activities. We have another policy meeting this Thursday. School will be out for Labor Day. Another board meeting on September 10th. I don't see anything on here. Tanya, did you have a schedule? Any administrative clarification? Okay, final board comments. Anybody?
Great teamwork.
Thank you, everybody. And it is 9:59. This meeting is adjourned.